Okay, this is the City of Palm Springs Architectural Review Committee meeting for Monday, March 18th, 2024. Roll call.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. Member Dozy is excused. Member McCoy,
Present.
Member Paline,
Here.
Member Walsh.
Here.
Member Fredericks,
Present.
Member O'Donnell has not yet arrived. Member Thomas.
Present.
And Member Thompson.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Can we get a report of posting the agenda?
Yes, the agenda was available for public access at the City Hall Bulletin Board and online by 9 p.m. on Wednesday, March 13th, 2024, in accordance with our policies and procedures.
Thank you. And can we get acceptance of the agenda if there are no changes on the committee members?
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
So moved. It is now, this time has been set aside for members of the public to address the Architecture Review Committee on the consent calendar and other agenda items. And items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Although the Architecture Review Committee values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, is generally cannot take any action items not listed on the posted agenda. We have 3 minutes for each speaker. Do you have any speakers?
We have no online speakers. I see that we do have members of the audience here who I believe are here for item 2A. So with your permission, they can speak during that item, but if there's anyone else that would like to speak on any other items, then we can continue. Great.
And so with consent calendar, we have approval of the minutes for June 12th, June 26th, July 17th, September 18th, and November 6th of 2023, as well as February 20th of 2024.
We wanted to give you a lot of reading material this week.
Do we have any changes to the minutes, the comments on the minutes? Wait. An acceptance? Motion to approve?
I'll second.
Thank you.
We take an official vote on that.
Okay, yes.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's unfinished business. Item 2A, a request by 818 Brands Dispensary and Lounge for a repaint of an existing structure and one sign at 17 square feet placed on the building front facade located at 560 South Williams Road. M1 zone case AR 223-0143.
Thank you, Member McCoy. So the Architecture Review Committee reviewed this project on February 5th, 2024. And at that time, you had directed the applicant to go back and work on some of the items. Which included items such as the building exterior and the signs. So I'm going to present some of the changes and then discuss some of the items that the applicant wishes to have the ARC reconsider. So the proposal today, as you mentioned, is to repaint the building and a main sign. And this is before the ARC because the zoning code requires that cannabis facilities be reviewed by the ARC for any building exterior changes and signage. So that is, once again, reminding the ARC why this project is before you. To orient the ARC, this is in the area that's below the airport in the industrial zone on 56 South Williams Road. It is the building that includes the parking lot to the north. Here's a photograph of the existing conditions. This is the ARCs. You've seen this before. You'll notice that there's a door and a window that's on the right-hand side of the building. The ARC had asked the applicant to remove those. And this is a photograph of what the first proposal was. Included a repaint of the building into a white color with red on the very top fascia, and then the door and the window to the right. This is a revised front elevation, so the door and the window have been removed. The red paint is still on the horizontal element and they painted it up underneath, which staff had recommended they do that. And then had painted the top portion, the fascia, black to match the rest of the trim. And the time that the ERC reviewed this project, it was discussed asked that the applicant remove the ADA space that's in the front of the building. And then the yellow truncated domes, which is on the sidewalk, and then add some sort of green landscaping between the sidewalk and the front of the building. The applicant has talked to the landlord, the owner of the building, and they have chosen not to remove the ADA space or the yellow truncated domes. Moving on, the ERC also asked the applicant to revise the canopy over the entry door. The entry door is on the side of the building off of the parking lot. The ARC had asked them to look at a different design of the canopy over the doorway, and the applicant has said that they would not like to do that. So once again, here's some photographs of the building itself. The canopy on the side, the entryway, and this is where you can see the sidewalk with the yellow, and then the space that's between the sidewalk and the building itself, which is very small. Moving on to the sign, this was the previous sign design. It was a sign that was placed on the top portion of the building. I guess the pointer doesn't really work, but if you look in the darker version, you'll see that it was hanging above. Well, I guess in your packet you have a design of what it looked like before. It has since changed to this version. The ERC asked, could they do a double-sided sign that was parallel to the building that was sort of a canopy sort of sign. The applicant has come back with a smaller sign, 17 square feet, individual channel letters as attached to the building in the upper left hand side of above the canopy. So it's quite different than what you had originally seen. So I think the applicant has responded to the ERC's request. Once again, they include a directional sign, an A-frame sign that we place in an area in front of the building that is out of the public right of way to help direct people into the cannabis dispensary itself. And this will be reviewed by our engineering department when they're ready to actually submit for the sign permit for this A-frame sign. So looking at changes to going back to the recommendation, staff recommends approval. The applicant has completed items that were on the building itself, except for the canopy over the side door. And we feel that ARC can focus on the building itself, and some of the site items may not need to be changed, such as the ADA space in the front, being that the landlord wishes to keep it in that current location. So that concludes my report, and the applicant is here to speak to you today.
Would the applicant like to question?
Wait.
Oh, sorry. Questions for staff? Thank you.
I have a question, but now regarding the ADA parking spot that's in the front, I know the landlord wants to keep it. Is there any rules about how far away from the entrance the handicap spot can be? Because now the entrance is on the side, it's nowhere near that front.
So there is, you're correct, there is a distance, handicap, ADA laws say that it needs to be as direct to the front entrance as possible. This obviously is not, because the door has been removed, but if I go to one of the overhead.
I saw that one.
Yeah, so there's one in the parking lot that will be, provide direct access into the site. So, you know, if the tenant were to leave, the applicant the owner still would like to keep that space in the front.
Okay. There's no conflict with code?
There isn't, as long as the one is inside and closest to the entrance to the building.
Okay.
A question, also in that same ADA parking space, I noticed that at present there's a sign above the parking space, so is it allowed to remove that sign?
Right, that would need to be removed,
Okay,
and that's not. That blocks the entrance any of the design of the building anyway, so that would be removed.
Any other questions of staff? Nope. Would the applicant like to make a presentation?
If anyone wants that.
Sure.
Please state your name and address.
Sure. My name is Gilbert Melcher. Our business is 560 South Williams, Palm Springs. Members, good to see you again. As you see, we made the changes, after our discussion with the landlord. As Glenn mentioned, the keeping of the handicap as well as the domes in the front. We will, of course, continue to add the landscaping, in between the building, and the truncated domes. It's not referenced here in this rendering, but they are to stay, and we'll continue the landscaping around the front. Other than that, I know the request in our first meeting was the paint to be matte. So I tried reflecting it the best I could in this design for it to be a matte paint. And as you see, we significantly reduced the size of the sign. And we tried exercising a few options, to go with a blade sign or a double facing, but, this was the most cost effective and realistic approach with out of all the sign companies that I've talked to, spoke with in the city.
Any questions for the applicant from the committee?
I should have asked this earlier, but what are the truncated domes?
Oh,
Yellow sidewalk.
The yellow.
it's like,
Oh.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know, I
I've
didn't.
never.
That's
I wasn't sure.
It's an engineering term.
It's Latin.
I guess I can't move that. Well, he's typing, I can't move the slides.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you can see what I'm saying.
Careful over there.
I have a question while the typing's going on. We had initially talked about, I think one of the members of the review committee suggested more prominent sign over the new entrance, to be better tied to the front, and you guys opted not to do that. I'm just curious as to why.
As over canopy. Yeah, so we're working, we started working at the time of our initial meeting, found a mural artist, so we actually did an inside mural on our building, but that's something I spoke with him about, painting on to this fabric essentially. Enter here with our logo as such. He just finished up our mural, so that's the new invoice that's coming. But yeah, that is the plan, to add some logo and a entry directive on that canopy.
Right, they're allowed to do a directional sign over the canopy so people know where to go in.
Any other questions for the applicant? Nope.
Are you concerned that and Glenn, can you go back to the sign? So if I'm driving by at 25 miles an hour, I don't know what the hell that thing says. Right? It was a little clear when it was all one color, and now it's little burritos, little fishes, I don't know what it says, like. It is just completely unclear. I see a T-shirt and it looks a little more clear from here, all one color.
So if I may comment,
You have to
that's your
come up.
concern.
Come on up.
Go ahead and sit. What are two chairs?
Grab them on.
Good evening, my name is Charles Freed, I'm the CFO for 818 Brands. Thank you for having me this evening. So to your concern, in other municipalities, while this is the first retail location that we are having as a company. We've had similar size signs in Los Angeles as well as at our other grow and manufacturing facilities in Adelanto. The concern that you've addressed, we've never encountered that in the past. In fact, it's always, the feedback has always consistently been that it's been very visible for people that are driving by. Also, given where we are on the street, we're very close to the end. My observation of the traffic flow going in front of the building itself, people are typically not going at a high rate of speed.
Okay, so the question was more to the two-tone, the black and the red.
Okay, let me clarify, if you look in your packet.
Yeah.
I think this is just the way it's on
The
the
shadow.
slide.
Yeah, cause it's like an aluminum.
So it's all red.
It's all red.
It's all red, essentially, to my understanding, the manufacturer Canyon Print signs, they use like a shell casing for the light itself.
So Glenn, what are we looking at in the?
But it'll be externally and internally illuminated. So essentially it would be, you would see all the letters below in red.
Right, so the depiction of the sign in your packet is correct. I'm not sure why this is, on this slide, it's showing up black and red. You know, if you look here, this is correct, so it's individual channel letters. They pop out in 4 inches, they have a red plexiglass face, and there's halo behind them.
Alright, so you guys passed the test, I failed.
It's okay, and I think the modification was in keeping with what y'all had requested, because at the last meeting, it was actually with a white background. And this change was made so it would pop out more.
Was in a white box.
In a white box, I
Yeah,
apologize.
that's been eliminated and now it's
Absolutely.
just channel letters pushed through.
Good.
Thank you, sir.
2 questions, kind of suggestions and questions at the same time. I know the landlord was not amenable to providing more landscaping than artificial turf. That works for me. I noticed, and I don't know which side, it's one of the other sides of the existing building where you can see on the right, looking from the front.
First one?
Yeah, there it is. Kind of trashy and messy over on the right side there, and I'm wondering if you might be amenable to, if that is part of the property, to also putting turf over there in that section as well,
That's all concrete.
where the weeds are.
Yeah, it's growing up through the cracks.
Oh,
So
okay.
when we came in 3 months ago, I had
Got it, yeah, it's showing on the proposal here, that's why I was asking.
in front of the gate, sorry, I thought you were talking beyond the gate.
No.
Oh, yes, essentially, yes, this would be part of essentially where we'll put the turf, but you're saying
Okay,
all the way up into the property line?
as shown on the proposal.
Understood.
My other question is, the truncated domes.
Mhm.
Might it be possible to paint those a different color, maybe a neutral gray or something like that?
Is that within the
Probably
municipality?
I don't think that's
No.
allowed.
No, has to be yellow.
I think it has to
Yeah.
be yellow.
Okay,
By
Okay.
ADA code, I guess. They have to be yellow.
I think somebody could argue it could be painted though, because there won't be a door here, so there's nowhere to go on those truncated domes. So if the idea is that you're handicap parking and the means of access to the building is inside the gate, then I don't know where these are going to, other than the landlord said keep them.
So further, I would say furthermore, that walkway would also be served as coverage if it's raining, so like it is today. That would essentially be their walkway too, where they could follow along the side, at least closer to the door, but I know in the near future, we hope that this existing front part of the building, which that is currently vacant, we plan to use as our lounge, so that side door will essentially be the entrance to our lounge.
Glenn, do you know anything about being able to paint those?
I don't know, that would be an engineering question or a building department, but if that was the entrance, I don't think they could paint them over. I think that's a color that they determine is important, whether you're, visually challenged and you can pick up the yellow color, but, and then of course the domes are for someone with a cane or challenge in walking, so, I'd have to verify that if they could be painted or not.
And I'm wondering if I might suggest, if this is something you all want us to look into further, perhaps a condition that allows us to work with the applicant and the engineering department to see what's possible, and then maybe do that at the staff level if there's a possibility to do something there that's compliant with the code. Would be one way to tackle that.
Any further questions for the applicant? Thanks.
All right, thank you, I appreciate it, thank you.
We do have, Mr. Chair, one other person in the audience, I don't know if you plan to speak, but there's also someone online, so we might just want to ask, Michelle Yields, would you like to speak? If so, raise your hand.
Okay, any discussion within the committee? Okay. So we have a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve as submitted. I just want to reinforce the flat paint, and I'm glad the applicant brought that up. So the motion is to approve as submitted, and for any staff report comments, with the underlining of that flat paint.
I'd like to amend that also to include that staff looks into the repaint of the truncated domes and see if that's possible.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moved.
Thank you very much.
Good job, gentlemen.
Congratulations.
Okay. Let's see. We have no new business and the other committee reports, requests and comments. Anybody else?
Yes, I have one. Yesterday, Sunday, I drove down Gene Autry and noticed the self-storage facility that went in at the corner of Toshiba and Gene Autry. And from what I saw, it has nothing to do with what we approved. There are bizarre little kind of block wall things sticking up. Can we get staff to review what we approved? And what planning subsequently approved and what is actually being built there, because it doesn't look, I don't recall ever approving that building.
Absolutely, we're looking at it.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I remember we spent a lot of time on that thing we did, because according to Sean, that is a gateway to Palm Springs. And it's very important, so.
Well, we will ensure that it matches your hard work.
Great. And director's report?
Not many updates. I think we've seen this on a couple different fronts where the planning commission is looking at some of our larger developments like Ascena and Miralon at sort of the additional phases of development coming in. You know, one was a 71 unit single family phase of Miralon. Some of the multifamily pieces in both Miralon and Ascena are moving through the system. And there's an interesting carryover, I think, from how the process worked when you were the AAC and not the ARC, where you both sort of had different jurisdiction over landscaping and architecture, depending on the part of the process that you were all in, where they, in order to move forward with final plan development district approval, need to make findings related to architecture and landscaping, even though it's then going to come to you all for final approval. So there's this kind of weird overlap in your jurisdiction there. So something that they've been doing, which I think is workable and probably good to do on these larger developments, is where it's maybe not as fully baked as they would like, striking a joint subcommittee with ARC and PC to work through those issues so that they can sort of make the findings they need to make and then punch it over to you all to really get into the details. So you may see a couple more of those coming up. I know that we already formed one for Ascena. But there may be one or two more in the works. So I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up of why you're going to be seeing those as those are moving through the process. I think I mentioned this previously, but our zoning code update is underway. So we have a kickoff meeting actually this week with the consultants on that project to get that process going. So we're excited about that, and we'll be sort of picking your brains on that, seeing where we need to focus our attention in modernizing the zoning code. We've not done a comprehensive update like this in anyone's recent memory. We're not even sure how long, so it's exciting to get that process going. We have a lot to do with that, as it's going to be a big process, but of course, we'll be looking to you all on how we do that. And as part of that process, we'll also be working to establish urban design guidelines for the city, both for residential uses, which we need to do under state law, but then also for non-residential commercial uses, which we are choosing to do because we think it's a good idea. So stay tuned, lots more work to do on that in the early stages of that work plan, but we'll be coordinating with you all on that process. Those are sort of the big updates that I have.
So off topic, but I noticed in today's Desert Sun, the Thompson is yet again delayed for the start date. Can you give us an update on that? And also, we didn't get a clear response from the writer's question on whether or not it was gonna be open in phases.
Whether the Thompson will be open in
Yeah.
phases? Yeah, so
Thank
that is sort of late breaking news. I don't have a full readout on the reason for that delay yet, but I think there are some technical things, issues that they're working through with engineering related to access and landscaping and just some of the sort of finishes within the building itself that push them out beyond the sort of late April date that they had been working on. And I think that's taking them into, of course, summer. And I'm not sure, whether opening a hotel in July is really something that they're looking to do. So I think they're now targeting Labor Day and looking for reservations. As I understand it, they're still looking at a phased opening. I don't know if the time between phase 1 and phase 2 will be minimized now because of this delay with phase 1. But certainly that northern portion that's closer to the corner was always anticipated to open first. Some of the commercial spaces on the ground floor with the sort of phase working farther south on Palm Canyon opening later. I don't know the new timing, so I will work on getting a more full update on that and bring it back.
Thanks.
And Chris, I wanted to mention, on the Ascena and those larger projects, I think it would be good to have continuity between ARC and planning commission, so if I can continue to help out, I will. Okay, so just, as those things come up, because we took a really deep dive with the Ascena the other day, and I think it would be good just to see if they're closing the loop on some of these things and see how we can really tighten it up, because the one thing that we saw was just architecture that just ballooned in scale vertically on really small lots, so it just creates architecture that's really awkward, just big, tall, unadorned, no solar control, just things that it's gonna be really hard for the design team. I kind of boiled it down to, it's really easy if you have a hip roof and the hip roof is coming down on all 4 sides to do these little lot developments, but when you wanna do a shed roof and the shed roof is 18 feet high and the window's sitting down there at 8 feet, it just looks so out of scale. And it's gonna be a chore for those guys to figure that one out.
And, both Ascena and Miralon have established urban design guidelines that were part of the original approvals package when those went through the process. So there's, not only sort of the practical side of it, your expertise is very useful in those conversations, but also, again, the findings that the planning commission needs to make to move these to you all, and then that you all will need to make when it comes to you is that they're consistent with those urban design guidelines. They're older, so I'm not sure, would they be the same urban design guidelines as if we were doing it now? I don't know, but that is the context within which we're working. So there's a balancing act there, and it's gonna take a team to work through that, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. And time is 6 p.m. and meeting is adjourned.
We can really.
They should all be like this.